on my finger. It's the sea. It's the stuff. It's the blob. It's not the blob. It's the stuff. Hi, and welcome to this delicious treat of an episode of My Mum Said I Could Watch It, where I'm going to be talking about Larry King Cohen's The Stuff, 1985. Now, 1985, 9. Probably saw this at about 11. This was one of those weird points where video is beginning to understand each other. I knew about this from a trailer. I know, right? What it was back in those days is you would see a film and there would be 3 or 4 other films advertised on that video, and those would be the only films you'd be bothered with seeing, unless you were exposed to Graham Humphrey's box art. So at least you knew what the film would be about, regardless of how outrageous the artwork was. Loved the trailer. It was the blob, it was the effects, it's the chocolate chip peach of it all. Probably as part of renting Empire Strikes Back. This was a CBS Fox release. It's that silver sort of band underneath it. So far we've looked at entertainment and video, but this is probably the first lush film. It may well have had a theatrical release in the UK. I haven't looked it up because it's not that kind of show. So, has the stuff passed its expiry date? Well, I wouldn't say it's even a best before. For those who need a reminder, what it starts with, maybe seen behind me, is that a couple of guys in an oil refinery mining kind of area discover the stuff. They see it in the ground, ignore the idea of don't eat snow, decide it's delicious. Cut to a few months later, I'm guessing, and there has been an industrialized health and beauty campaign that has come out with the stuff, selling it as a dessert, although actually it's not a dessert. It is a gestalt parasitic entity. It's never really described whether or not it's got any plans of its own other than to survive and consume everything. Through this story, we meet a young boy whose family becomes absolute stuff addicts. We meet a corporate saboteur who's really supposed to be the hero, but ultimately is there in hock for other corporate concerns. And that's what fascinated me in watching the stuff again. There is so much in here about consumerism. It's totally layered, and I just think most of it would have gone over my head at 10 or 11. We're talking about infrastructure, you're talking about FDAs, you're talking about corporate intrigues. All I knew was that there was this big gooey thing and it ate people and it possessed people and it came out of dogs' asses, right? That's the bits that it doesn't come out of a butt, but ultimately those are the things that comes out of the mouth, mainly associating with the child at this point. As I see it now, the amoral ways of Mo, because whenever you offer him something, he wants Mo. It's just a fascinating hero. His moral ambiguity isn't so much ambiguity as absolute pragmatism. He understands that he is being paid by corporates. He has no scruples about getting that money because they have no scruples either. And he associates with some really drastic characters, which, he meets Chocolate Chip Pete really by happenstance. I suspect the only reason he hadn't already met Chocolate Chip Pete is because Chocolate Chip Pete doesn't really go into corporate espionage, hence why his company has been taken over by the stuff. His work with a media rep, again, these are 2 preppy, middle-class, professional people living ostensibly casual suburban lives. Of course they're going to hook up. They both are in that bracket. The bits that really stick out, though, and kind of jar, and I think would be hard to sell in 2023 sensibilities, but are the reality, is the last act, where they try and create some sort of movement against the corporates and really against the stuff devouring everyone from the inside. Ultimately, he turns to a Nazi. We can dance around it. We can say he wanted to make America great again. He's definitely, the Colonel is definitely someone who feels that Biden stole the election. For those of you, spoiler alert, he didn't. He won it. Sorry. So no, I'm not actually. I'm really not at all. I'm glad he won it. Whatever folder role we're in now, definitely the 2 terms in a row of that guy. God no. Yeah, he is also the Colonel, being the MAGA man that he is. He knows he needs hits. He doesn't want to talk to Chocolate Chip because he's a racist. Yet he understands the guy gets viewing figures. Ultimately, the truth about the stuff comes from a right-wing media network. The truth about the stuff is spread by a right-wing militia. The very people who talk about fake news, a story that the stuff would be seen as, in many ways. The denouement, where the young man gets to see the corporates eat their own stuff, and by consequence be addicted and be devoured to it. It's also the first time I ever got exposed to a post-credit sequence. I used to sit as a child and just watch the credits because, you've paid your £1.50, or other month paid the £1.50. I wanted my money's worth. I literally watched credits under that mentality. I used to watch videos when they reached the end. I wouldn't rewind the tape. I would rewind the tape in order to watch the film again, albeit backwards, in order to get the ultimate value out of a tape before I returned it to the shop. I had, as a young man, I had time. The last thing I'd mention about the stuff, because it really did stick to me during this, is how it is about body fascism. Throughout it, you are peppered with the ads for the stuff, that this is going to make you more beautiful, that this is an aspirational thing, and make you thinner. As someone who... I can look over the videos of this and go. I don't edit them. I know, despite the comments and the feedback, I'm not going to. I feel that ruins the point for me of making them. There is one moment I will share, which I think is relevant to the stuff. Is I had a falling out with a guy. Now, I'll call him Vegan Pete, but he wasn't a vegan. I mean, he's eating a vegan diet, but it really was about body fascism. And I think that's why it dovetailed into the stuff for me, because there's the scenes where the young man is being forced, really coerced, that he has to eat the stuff, that he has to do this in order to be part of the family. Now, I myself, as much as I'd like to be... It's more always been about health gains. My only issues with my weight or my image has always never been actually my problem. It has always been other people's. A friend of mine, Vegan Pete, took umbrage with this. I told him to stop. He needs to curb his fat shaming. He said it was my job to call him out. Next day, I saw him glaring at my stomach, absolutely anger. Like I think it's someone who should really be locked up. Anger glare. I think any woman who's been uncomfortable in public transport knows exactly what I'm talking about. Challenged him on it, and he slapped it and went, ah! So I wrote that up. Shared it on social media, and apparently I'm not sensitive and I hurt his feelings. The fact is, the guy was being a body fascist, and very soon after he had an accident in the gym because of his fixation of he's fine as far as I'm aware. He recovered, doesn't really want to talk to me. But that's what this is selling. This is selling that sort of idea that if you go into this lifestyle, you will be the best you. This is how to make sure that you are thinner, you are smarter, you are faster, you are stronger. And the reality is, most of us just muddle by. We're more than enough, and we get by with what we've got. And actually, most people in and of that, pretty cool people. I know you are, because you bothered to watch this for over 9 minutes. So, the moral of the stuff, it's a great film. I think it was wasted on me as a 12-year-old. I think the jeopardy with the younger kid definitely helped maintain my interest, because the stuff like Danny Aiello's, the corporate talks, that was boom. I'm pleasantly impressed that 11-year-old me had the patience for it. As 47-year-old me, it's fascinating. It shows how little things have actually changed. Social media, the fake news elements of, ultimately, when you're turning to a Trumpian in order to spread the fact that there is a parasitic entity eating America. That's a parody in and of itself in today's news. So get down there, order yourself. If you get it on Shudder, it's part of the subscription. But do get yourself a large portion of the stuff, because you know what? Enough is never enough. Bye.